Sunday, November 28th. I just finished taking a shower. I didn't record yesterday. Did I record? I don't think I did. I recorded the day before yesterday. I had a dream yesterday, but I couldn't. I remember. I don't remember the details, but I remember waking up and thinking, "Oh, it's the same thing. It's the same theme," but I don't remember what the theme is. Last night I had a dream. I had more dreams, and there was this theme around cleaning. I was with my sister-in-law and the kids and my nieces and nephews, and I was pooping in the middle of the house and just like I was just pooping and or trying to. It was really more of this trying to. So I felt a little constipated, but I knew I was like, I'm gonna poop. Like I could feel it. And the like she's like cleaning around me, and then I'm done, and then I'm just like laying on the counter, and it's like she's uncomfortable and trying to get me to like, hey, don't forget to label your stuff, or hey, like trying to be nice about it. And I'm playing with the kids, and there's this element of cleaning that we're needing to clean, so we're trying to have fun while we're cleaning. And that's the only scene that stands out completely. I know there's more, and I'll probably get more flashbacks during the day because I feel like it's gonna come if I sit with it long enough. But I woke up knowing, like, I know I need to, like, I went to bed last night thinking I need to clean, I need to wash, like, and it's funny because a lot of the videos I posted last week were around, like, I'm like, oh, I need to clean, I'm not a good, like, it's not, you know, I have to put good music on to clean my space, because I am a little cochinita, you know, like, what's that Charlie Brown character in the pigsty? I remember I used to have a little pin that said, the world needs more pigsty, or something like that. Sorry, it just makes me laugh. But I was in the shower and just still sitting with this realization. So I think there's just a theme of like, you may need to clean, right? You need to clean my space, and so I'm gonna do that today. But there's this other element that I've been sitting with, and it's just this realization that I was groomed, that I was being groomed, that I was groomed to a certain degree growing up. Like just the what's being triggered within me as I'm exploring the possibility of either volunteering or working with Project Survive. And hopefully I connect with my cousin today to talk to them more about what's being triggered within me, because I haven't shared my story with them. But also just trying to figure out, do I volunteer with Project Survive? Because I'm also in the middle of increasing my work hours, or do I take on a position there? And so I'm in the middle of that, which is funny because the next videos, well, the video today that came out is my love affairs. But the ones that are coming up after, like I'm or the ones that were before, I don't remember, because I I schedule them ahead of time, and so I forget. And today was the last one. I just remember, no, tomorrow's the last one. I don't remember what I talk about there. But so last night I stayed up also, like, going over the next set of videos that I'm posting, to just kind of get a feel for, like, just to prepare them, really, put them together. So I haven't posted them, but I just put them together and have them saved. And so the goal today is to just, like, schedule them to post for the week. But it's the end of the chapter, so now I have to, like, go back and look at the next group of videos, find the common theme, title it. So I haven't looked through these videos, and I started to last night, and they're I'm a little fuzzy with my memory, so I don't know if it's the ones that have just posted or the ones that are going to post, or I'm still talking about where am I finding my place. I think that's one of them. Finding my place to volunteer. Like, what do I do with my time? And now this has popped up, and it makes sense for me. Like, it makes sense because this whole journey has been about relationships, right? It's been about breaking these cycles, these patterns, really, for myself, and intergenerational trauma. I mean, it's all about relationships, really. Different types with different people, families, strangers, new people, intimate partners. So it makes sense. It makes sense, right? And then just the dreams with the teenage girls, it makes sense. It makes sense. But then there's that realization of like, oh snap, like it's triggering stuff in me that I hadn't thought about in a while, and things that I didn't realize I hadn't processed. And so I think I'm still kind of stuck on that realization that I was being groomed and not realizing it. Not I think I had emotionally resolved it in the sense of like I made peace with it emotionally, but I don't think I had actually processed it, like pulled it apart and put labels to stuff, right? In terms of what my experience was, aside from the fact that I knew I was molested. That's all I knew, right? So that's the only term I've labeled it as. But grooming was something that I hadn't connected it to my experience. Like, so there's elements of my experience I haven't connected stuff to labels or whatever. So I think I'm still working through that. Sit with it for a little bit. Not that it's triggering any anger, because again, I think emotionally I had already resolved it. It's more of like the shock of like, oh snap, that's what it was, right? I was being groomed. There's this element of like, like I don't know if you guys remember, if you've been watching my story, this almost was it here? No, when I first realized that was being triggered with the painter, that I didn't realize that it was. This was back in February of this year. So this was this year, February, March, when I wrote the letter, and I was just like, whoa, why did I write that? Why did that come out when he never made me feel that way, right? But I was projecting that on him. And then realizing like, oh snap, like who made me feel this way? And it was this person. And I mean, but I've mentioned it before, I was a very quiet child growing up. But I remember with this experience, there was something, I was being seen. I was being seen. And so there's this element of like, I mean, I was trying to even remember how old I was. I think I was like 6 or 7 when it started. It must have been 6 or 7, and I think it ended when I was like 10, 9 or 10 maybe. I don't remember when it ended. I remember one of the last times I was in bed and this person crawled into my bed and was trying to turn me over, and I didn't want to turn over. And I remember tearing up and not saying anything. Like, and there was an element of feeling frozen almost, and resisting, like, because he kept like pushing me over, and I kept resisting. And I just remember tearing up and closing my eyes, and that's it. Like, I don't remember anything else. I don't remember if I was ever turned around. I don't remember anything after that. I don't remember anything after that. But I remember when I was younger, because I wasn't seen, it felt like he was seeing me, right? I was getting attention. I was getting like special attention. I was getting special attention. And I liked that. I was little, I was young, right? And I was quiet. And I mentioned before that I always felt like I was a wall, like a fly on the wall, like everything was going on around me. And I was just watching everything unfold. Like I was never really, I don't remember when I was younger, like I don't remember ever really engaging, but just watching everything. And I just felt like a fly on the wall. And so there was this element of being seen, and I liked the attention, and it was special. I was made to feel like it was special attention. It was special attention. But it was only when he wanted it. It was only because I remember there were times where I wanted it, and the attention. And I just remember it was when he wanted it. It wasn't all the time. Like sometimes I would try to interact, not in that way, but just in another way, and I was pushed away. So it was only when he wanted in that particular manner. And you know, I mentioned that there was always someone at home. Like there was so many people coming in and out. And I don't blame my parents for this. I don't blame anybody for this. I remember being so angry, but I was angry more at him than anyone else. Like I never blamed my parents. There was just like always this knowing, like, you know, people came and left in our home. People always, you know, but there's this element of like, you know, my dad knew what homelessness was, right? With being unhoused, not having stability. And so our doors were always open to people who needed a place to stay. Didn't matter how long they stayed. Our home was always open for people who needed a place to stay. And so there was always movement. There was always movement at home. And so I can see how easily some people who may be in similar situations can blame, right, the head of the household or whomever, like you should have protected me, you know? And there's other elements to it too, like I never told anybody about this. I never told anybody about this. So no one knew. I kept it to myself for a while, and then I slowly opened up to a few people. Later on. But there's this element of who do you blame, right? People are quick to want to blame people or take ownership over something. And then I was even thinking about it. So bring it back to the shower. I was just thinking about it because I'm still sitting with it. I'm still that realization of like, wow, I was being groomed and not realizing it, right? I was being taught like, this is when, this is how, this is what we would do. And that's that. And until I didn't want to anymore. But the blaming thing, right? Of people getting stuck in cycles, domestic violence cycles, sexual abuse cycles. And there's an element of like kids, right? Who clearly, right? There's an element of like, they can only do so much, right? To protect themselves just because of their size, their cognitive ability. Like there's just a clear distinction, right? But what about when you're an adult and you're being assaulted or you're stuck in a domestic violence cycle or a toxic relationship, right? There's this opportunity for awareness, right? And there's this opportunity for awareness. And everything is purposeful, right? So there's this element of like, how can you view this situation in a neutral way if someone is purposely, intentionally attacking someone else? That's what I've been sitting with in terms of like, how do you resolve that, right? How do you, when there's actual violence, a threat to your life, right, and you're fighting for your life in that moment, how do you resolve all that pain? How do you resolve all that energetic trauma, that imprint, energetic imprint that's being left on you, the traumatic imprint on your energy source, right? That's what I've been sitting with. And so then, is it appropriate to say that when you become aware, right, when you're at a point in your life when you can objectively, when you can remove yourself from being in it, because I've mentioned before, like when you're in it, still struggling with it, it's hard to do the healing when you're in it, because you're just trying to survive. So you're just coping, you're just trying to survive, you're on survival mode. Is it possible to get to a point where you're completely removed from that space to work on the healing, right? And regain a sense of control in realizing, like, I co-created this with the universe, right? And that is astounding for a lot of people. Like, no, how could I have brought this upon myself? Because that's what I was struggling with in the shower. I was just like, if there's this element, if I'm learning that I co-create with the universe. If that's what I'm learning right now, and this happens to me, wherever on this pendulum of intensities, of extremes it occurs on, how can I co-create this with the universe, right? How is it that I'm putting this in my path with the universe? Then, you can go, I can see how you can sway from one extreme to the other. It's just like, I'm pissed off at the freaking universe for putting this in my plate, right? Blaming, one of those self-defense mechanisms. It's just, so if I have that awareness, right, depending on where I am emotionally, can I consider, can I entertain the possibility that I'm co-creating with the universe? And to a certain degree, unconsciously, I created this for myself. My higher self and I unconsciously created this for myself, whether it's because of the upbringing that I was brought up, right? The blueprint, the first blueprint of this world, of this life that I was given, right? Because to a certain degree, we're given a blueprint, and which is how we learn to live and function in society. That's our household, right? Those are where we learn the first rules, where we learn the first set of how-tos, right? How to resolve this, how to resolve that, how not to resolve this, right? And so if my blueprint was full of toxic relationships, of toxic cycles, of unhealthy boundaries, right? Of violence, that's all I know. That's all I know. And so then by default, because that has now become my default blueprint, right? Because I don't know any other blueprint. That's what I've been given until I venture out into the world where I meet other families. I watch TV, because that's what I did. I remember I watched TV and I remember TGI Fridays, right? Urkel and Full House. And I remember thinking to myself, that's what a family needs to be like. I remember telling myself that. And not that my family was completely toxic, but there was a whiff of domestic violence. There really was. Like, my mom wasn't allowed to drive. That's why we walked everywhere, because my mom was not allowed to drive. She was not allowed to go back to school. And when she did, she was blamed when something would happen to us kids. So there was an element there was a whiff of domestic violence, clearly, for sure, that I remember. Of course, with each individual in my family, their experience is completely different, right? I mentioned I grew up very, like, I was an observer of what was going on. I wasn't so much of a player until later on, when I found my voice, when I felt more comfortable and confident speaking up. But for most of, like, my young child, like, I just remember watching people and watching how they interacted and trying to make sense of it. So going back to this blueprint, then indirectly, subconsciously, without knowing, I then have created this repetitive cycle for myself, right? Without knowing, right? And I created this. I put myself in that situation without knowing, until you know, until you see the pattern, and then you can break it. But it's gonna be harder for some people to accept that as a possibility because of how extreme the experience was. But if we entertain the possibility that that's what's happening, right? We're subconsciously, unconsciously recreating, right? That's how we get stuck in these cycles. We're unconsciously recreating these patterns of interaction, attracting people, right? Because we're our own self-worth, right? Can we own it? Is the question. Can we own that part? Our part. Not the fact that not just justify what happened, but to just own the part that unconsciously, I created this for myself. For a purpose. I unconsciously created this for myself with the hopes that I pick it up this time, with the hopes that I'm more aware, that I can see the patterns, right? So I can get out. So I can do something different. So I can venture into the unknown, right? Because all of this is known. These patterns, these cycles of behavior, it's known. That's why a lot of women have a hard time getting out of domestic violence cycles, because they anticipate, they know what the cycle looks like. So knowing what's going to happen, I can prepare for that versus not knowing what's going to happen next. Right? Versus deciding to leave this relationship because I don't know what's going to happen. At least here, I know what's going to happen. I can prepare myself, right? For each stage of that cycle. So that's what I've been chewing on. just trying to sit with it and think and then reflecting on these cycles for myself, right? These third-party situations that I found myself. I was triangulated as a child, right? I was in between my parents, trying to resolve their marriage, right? Trying to be the mediator. And then there's, more threes in my life. This pattern of being a workaholic, right? So I didn't prioritize my marriage. And then when I tried to prioritize my marriage, it didn't work. So I dove back into work, or I dove into, these affairs, and then still getting caught, even after I left my marriage, right? Still getting caught up in these third-party situations with other people, right? The painter, he was workaholic, like I used to be, it was all about work and it was all about family. So it's just like, okay, clearly, right? That's your focus. I'm pulling myself out of this situation because it's unbalanced. And I had already picked it up. And then, when I wasn't dating, right? Then this other person, right? This other fire sign, I wasn't looking for it. He was the one that initiated. And I was like, okay. And then end up being like, I was teetering with third-party situation stuff there too, right? Because he was ending a relationship, supuestamente, and then so I was caught somewhere in the middle, and then supposedly he found someone else, and I was like, okay, well, thanks for telling me after I outed you, so there's this element of like, what? But it was that element of like, I was able to pick it up on it, and I had the connection to my higher self to tell me, right, through my dream that something was off. And I listened, and sure enough, he confirmed it. Third-party situations, right? So all of these, in essence, I co-created with the universe so I can pick it up, and walk away, pick it up and walk away. Now, these are very light, compared to other stories of violence, right? This is just a very, it's touching the surface, right? Purposefully, so I can pick it up. and talk about it, for other people to be able to do that for their own lives, right? To be more aware of themselves and the interactions and the patterns of interactions with the people in their life, so that they can get to that point to pick it up faster than I did, right? I'm in my 40s, clearly. It took me until 40 to pick up on all these patterns. But if I'm being pulled towards kids, if I'm being pulled towards the teens, right? Then this is for them to be prepared for it, to catch it, right? To heal earlier, sooner, if they choose to. If they choose to. Let my hair dry. If they choose to, it's a choice. It's all choice. That's all it is. It's a choice to see and a choice to own, right? To regain your power, regain that sense of control over your life, and stop those cycles from reoccurring for yourself. Really, that's what it is. Once you're aware of it, once you're able to pick it up, you can then stop it for yourself and venture into the unknown, knowing that that's the way to go, right? The way to something new, the way to something different, because you're deserving of it. You're worthy of it. That's all. That's all. I need to get ready and clean. Hi, my name is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learned to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us, in whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth. This just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created TShirt Designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience, and that you find some type of truth for yourself, or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and I wish you all the best, and we'll see what else comes